They want to control its assets. It's a very rich country, small population. Will not happen. So we tell those people, be happy. This will never ever happen because the Libyan people are so united. And please wait for surprises next days. You will see what will happen. The Libyan people, they woke up from the shock, they realized everything, and now they are reacting and fighting back. And you will see what will happen in the next days.
Saiful Islam Gaddafi, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. First, starting with Italy, they have seen quite a bit of rain shower activity over the last couple of days. Flooding has been a big problem there. That's all due to this area of low pressure that has been in the region. Well, over the next couple of days, we do expect to see this area of low pressure finally start to weaken a little bit, but still more flooding is going to be a problem on Saturday. By Sunday, it is going to start to de-intensify and weaken as we go into the beginning of the week there. Another area of low pressure we need to watch very carefully is what is happening out here into the Atlantic. This is going to be making its way towards the Iberian Peninsula as we head towards the end of the weekend. But Madrid on Saturday, not too bad, as well as London and Paris. They are looking at partly cloudy conditions at 10 degrees for their forecast. Towards the northern coast of Africa, that area of low pressure that we were talking about, well, the clouds are finally going to start to really not to affect them anymore. We're going to be seeing clearer conditions as that system begins to push up to the northeast. But we are going to be seeing warmer temperatures for Cairo. Their high temperatures are going to be increasing from about the low 20s that we saw earlier this week to about 28 degrees for them. We are going to be seeing Tripoli at 17 degrees. Still a little bit of windy conditions along that northern coast. We'll be watching that very carefully. Down towards the south, we're looking at some very wet conditions across Namibia as well as Angola. Localized flooding there, but we are going to be seeing some nice conditions down to the south with Johannesburg at 27.
Business Latest is brought to you by Catalum, the most efficient and environmentally friendly aluminium smelter. Business Latest is brought to you by Catalum, the most efficient and environmentally friendly aluminium smelter.
What Gaddafi has done, he dismantled or destroyed the system in the country.
As chaos and violence sweep across Libya,
they're living through fear, they're living through a nightmare.
They're using ammunition, live ammunition.
Al Jazeera hears from those who have lived in fear of Gaddafi's regime.
We don't want him to leave. We want to arrest him. 42 years is too much.
Libya, a state of terror. At this time on Al Jazeera.
An uprising on the streets, showing no sign of relenting. Protesters united in their defiance of the regime. As demonstrations continued for a third week, President Mubarak remained unmoved. But how much longer could he ignore the demands of his people and hold on to power? In a day-by-day account, we look at the events that changed Egypt, from those that witnessed them firsthand. Fall of Mubarak, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera focused on political turmoil.
Security presence is very high.
We focused on those fighting for their cause and those fighting for survival.
He was shot with a gun.
On the sharing of power and the taking of land. We focused on the deep seas and the dunes of the desert plains. Throughout Africa, we focus on news and documentaries that matter to you. Al Jazeera, television that truly inspires.
The relocation of the Ahmadiyya has magnified the issue of religious intolerance in Indonesia. Is this inevitable in a multicultural society? And is the government turning a blind eye?
101 East at this time on Al Jazeera.
A history of guerrilla warfare. A place on the global stage. They were an organization created for a stateless population. But before fighting for their land, why did the PLO fight for independence from their Arab neighbors? Chronicling the turbulent story of the struggle for a Palestinian homeland. PLO, History of a Revolution, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Opposition forces prepare for confrontation after renewed fighting in Libya's eastern cities. I'm Lauren Taylor, you're watching Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also on the programme, Egypt's new Prime Minister joins protesters in Tahrir Square and vows to meet their demands. Yemen opposition rallies intensify as President Saleh rejects a transition plan to step down. And thousands of Iraqis take to the streets to protest against unemployment and corruption. Hello, we begin in Libya, where there's been more unrest after Friday prayers. In the past hour, Interpol has issued an international alert for Muammar Gaddafi and several in his inner circle. On the ground, we're getting reports that forces loyal to Gaddafi have fired tear gas on thousands of protesters marching in the capital, Tripoli. Opposition fighters are taking on Muammar Gaddafi's security forces in the east of the country too. There are reports of confrontations in the oil town of Ras Lanuf. Libyan state television is reporting that pro-Gaddafi forces have regained control of Zawiya from rebel hands. Witnesses describe scenes of battles with heavy machine guns and automatic weapons between armed residents and army units. Protesters have also gathered in the eastern city of Benghazi, demanding an end to Muammar Gaddafi's rule. It comes after a series of strikes on eastern towns in the past week. The UN says a wave of refugees fleeing Libya has suddenly slowed after a clampdown by pro-Gaddafi forces, but many are still stranded at Libya's borders and inside the country. The International Committee of the Red Cross is appealing for $25 million in aid to pay for supplies such as water, medicine and food. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis caused by the conflict is worsening. 180,000 people have fled the country and thousands more, especially from the Indian subcontinent, are still waiting. The UN says that more than 90,000 have fled to Tunisia, nearly 80,000 have crossed into Egypt, another 2,500 people have crossed at the Niger border too. Niger, I should say, sorry. But while agencies are warning of a growing crisis for these refugees, thousands more are still stuck inside Libya. Bernard Smith reports.
Row after row of tents in this UN transit camp on the Tunisian side of the border with Libya. The site is already full.